Now would you look at this girl, owning the stage, slaying all the performances. Guess what? That's me. I'm Rena, a talented beauty just like my mom, Demi Grande, the famous singer. Alongside being a dazzling diva, Mom also works as a vocal trainer at my school, the Gloria Rowley Arts Academy. Having the best teachers here to help me perfect all my skills sounds amazing, right? I excel at everything I do, being an MC, dancing, acting, mastering the piano. But still, I knew that none of these would really satisfy my mom. 'Cause there is one not-so-tuneful problem. I'm tone deaf. At 7, once after I sang my little heart out in a vocal class, the teacher asked my mom when she came to pick me up, "Oh, so Rena is really your daughter? What a shame she didn't inherit your voice. She's so off-key, we all had to cover our ears." But besides singing, I can still shine on stage in other ways. For example, being an MC at my mom's new album pre-listening party. Everything was going smoothly, right up until track number 6, when the speakers and screen glitched out. Being the professional I am, I kept the crowd entertained with my charisma and dance moves. "Rena, sing us a song too, please!" Suddenly, the rest of the audience were nodding in agreement. I hesitated, but then decided to go with it. Just a short one. Can't be that bad. 'Cause I'm in the stars tonight. So watch me bring the fire, set the night alight. The audience started laughing. Oh no, if only Harry Potter could lend me his invisibility cloak right now. Please help! Suddenly, "Hey, everyone! Sorry for the technical issues. It seems to have affected the sound system also, causing voices distortion. So, not letting you all wait any longer, how about we do an acoustic performance for this next song, in which Ariana and I had the honor to feature with Miss Demi Grande. I assure you won't be able to get this experience anywhere else." The crowd cheers so loud. They must have forgotten about my disastrous performance. Thank God. Everyone was surely enjoying this. I mean, who could blame them? Look at him. My savior. Not Harry Potter, but Brian Willis, the best singer from the vocal department of our academy. At the end of the show, I rushed over to get a photo with Mom, but it seems she was busy. I guess I'd see her at home. That evening, I was in my room looking at video clips from the party when a video of me singing popped up. I scrolled through the comments. So, Demi's beautiful voice was defo not inherited. "She can dance and act, but she sure can't sing." Ha! Huh? It wouldn't make more sense if Ariana was Demi's daughter. Just then, Mom came in to thank me for the successful event and saw me disheartened by those words. "It doesn't matter, Rena. Just enjoy your dancing or anything you like. Singing isn't for everyone." I couldn't get her words out of my head. I was a daughter of a diva, yet I sounded like a frog. No way. They can sing, then this diva's daughter can sing too. So I booked myself in for some online singing lessons, then signed up as the opening solo singer for the Academy's annual concert. As long as I practice hard, then I'd make it, right? Just like how I honed my other skills. Mom saw me practicing and tried to help, but no matter how hard I tried, I always came in at the wrong beat, sang as if I was reading, whispered when it was too low, cracked my voice when it was too high, and screamed out the words. "Sweetie, why don't you prepare a dance instead? It's more of your thing. Leave the singing to our vocal department. Ariana will surely nail it." Ugh! Ariana this, Ariana that. I'm your daughter, not her. I must be able to sing. I was looking at the list of registered candidates and feeling nervous. But Brian appeared beside me. "Oh, so you want to follow the singing path? If so, I'll always support you." He handed me some materials for basic vocal training. I was thinking about how sweet he was when Ariana and her friends passed by. "Oh, so both you and Brian are trying out for the opening solo?" "Nah, just me, obviously. How could Brian compete against his girl?" "Ariana is his girl? So Brian didn't like me at all. He was just being polite. Both him and Mom thought I was just a dud and Ariana was the headline act? So I practiced all day and night to prove them wrong. I also posted a short clip of my singing on the forum and said if people voted for me, I'd provide a mega performance full of singing and dancing. The next day, the school announced the top 2 tied opening solo candidates, Ariana and me. I was so excited. But then I heard the murmuring. "You voted for her? For real? I just want to see how bad her voice can get." "Don't be so mean. She's Miss Grande's daughter. Of course my vote goes to her." Suddenly, Enid, this usually timid girl, appeared and congratulated me. "Don't listen to them, Rena. I believe only someone as well-rounded as you deserves to represent Gloria Rowley's Art Academy. Enid's kind words really gave me strength. Now I just had to keep on practicing. I'm so near to the goal now. That weekend was the final rehearsal before the selection round. I was extremely nervous, and this was the first for me to feel this bad on stage. I wasn't as comfortable and confident as I was MC or a dancer. I tremblingly sang, but all I could think of was my itchy throat. I couldn't hit the notes at all. Had I practiced the wrong techniques? No way. I followed all the instructions Brian gave me.
If you don't really want to do it, don't push yourself.
I just feel a little under the weather today, so I didn't want to push it too hard. Don't worry, I've got a wonderful performance in store for everyone on D-Day. Oh, Brian, where have you been? We need to run over our duet one more time. Ariana again? She must be trying to pick a fight with me. I glumly looked around the auditorium and saw everyone from different departments busily preparing for their amazing performances. They were all passionately practicing. Meanwhile, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. How on earth could I save this performance? I was at my all-time low when Enid appeared next to me. Hey, do you want to team up? I have the vocals and you possess the greatest stage presence. Seeing my confused face, she continued, I've always admired you, and it's really sad to see you like this. We all just want a successful event for our academy, right? I've tried so hard. Everyone, especially my mother, is really looking forward to my performance. I cannot fail. So I agreed to let Enid help me lip sync for the audition. Just for once. I'll recover in time for the real concert anyway. The audition started off great. Enid was backstage singing, and turns out her voice is Taylor Swift level amazing. It's even more soulful than Ariana's. Seeing the crowd's stunned faces, I confidently gave the performance my best shot. But then I suddenly noticed the crowd's confused looks and realized something. Enid had stopped singing. Panicked, I turned on my mic to sing, but my voice came out as an off-key tremble. I sounded terrible, but I managed to finish the song and then rushed backstage. As soon as I stepped backstage, I saw my mom and some of the other students, including Brian and Ariana, gathered around Enid, who was sobbing, saying that her mic broke and that she didn't mean to let me down. Enid, what are you doing here? I can't, Ari. Please forgive me. I can't do it. Even though you're my sister, I can't. What are you talking about?
Wait, you two are sisters?
Oh, I see. So Ariana teamed up with Enid to sabotage me. I knew I wasn't Ariana's favorite person, but this was low, even for her. Now I was a laughingstock to everyone. It had been a horrible day, so I just wanted to curl up in my room and be left alone. Only, Mom knocked on my door. Sweetie, can we talk? I was too sad to answer, and Mom must have been mad at me, as she didn't try knocking again. I can't blame her. I would too if I was a mom. A tone-deaf daughter like me really embarrassed her. As expected, the next day at school, everyone was buzzing about 3 hot topics. The first one being my lip syncing. Rena can't even sing properly. Her performance was a joke. But she's truly a great dancer. She's better off focusing on that. The second, that they suspected Ariana of being the mastermind who set me up. And the last one was a surprise at how awesome Enid's voice was. That whole morning, I couldn't escape the gossiping. Worse still, clips of my lip syncing were posted online, and now the Academy had been accused of favoritizing a celeb's daughter over talent. I never meant for it to affect my mom and the school's reputation. I know I needed to try and fix this, so I decided to apologize in front of everyone during lunch break. It was my idea to lip sync, and I know it was dumb. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it. But before my friends could reply, Enid spoke up. Rena, I didn't mean to blow the lip sync plan. Ariana begged me to, but I refused. It was a completely unintended incident. Please, drop the act. I never asked you to do that. I didn't record our convo because I trusted you. Because you're my sister. But come on, Ariana, you know what you said. Oh, you didn't record it? Then it's a good job I did. Ariana then pulled out her phone and played a video. Why were you lying about the lip syncing? Relax, you should be thanking me for helping you eliminate a rival. I gasped in shock, and so did everyone else. I never thought that sweet, timid Enid could secretly be so conniving. Enid couldn't play innocent anymore, so she broke down and told everything. Okay, I did it, but none of y'all understand what it's like having Ariana for a sister. I have a better voice, but I can't compete with her. She's beautiful and everyone loves her, while I'm always the black sheep. Not to mention my migraine medication made me put on these unlosable weights. So I felt too insecure to stand on stage. I just wanted Ariana to taste failure for once, to feel what I feel. So I used Rena to beat her, but the mic messed up, and I took my chance to put the blame on Ariana instead. Everyone was still trying to process all these shocking revelations when a boy stood up.
Voila! Everything is clear. It's just some selfish scheme of one person. GR Arts Academy is full of awesomely talented students. Stop the dumb rumors.
Turns out, that guy has been live streaming the whole thing. Now that the case was closed, both Mom and the Academy's credibility was restored. But this drama is still too much for me. I needed a breather. As I listened to the birds chirp around me, I began to feel calmer. But then I saw Ariana coming over. I'm sorry about my sister. It's true I'm a bit jealous of you, but I'm not that spiteful. Jealous? Of me? But you're pretty, have a superstar voice, and everyone in school loves you. How about you, huh? You're beautiful, multi-talented, you can MC, act, and dance. All I can do is sing. Okay, so turns out Ariana isn't as unapproachable as I thought she was? She's actually nice. Maybe I shouldn't have been so quick to judge her. Suddenly, Brian charged over to us with an alarmed look on his face. Calm down, Tiger. I'm not harming your girl. She's all yours now. Your girl?
Why are you here and not at home?
I'm not ready to face Mom just yet. She must hate having a tone-deaf daughter.
Rena, you were wrong for lip-syncing, but it's not your fault that you can't sing. Singing isn't something mandatory for all human beings, is it?
But
do you know how proud Miss Grande is of you? She always brags to us about your achievements and plays us your performance videos.
Brian's wise words made me feel a lot better. He was right. I shouldn't have lip-synced. I should have just embraced the things I'm actually good at and just been myself. After talking to Brian, I felt ready to go home and face Mom. Everyone expects me to sing as well as you, and I too honestly thought that if I kept practicing, I'd be able to. But the truth is, I'm just not a singer, and I never will be one. I know you're mad at me, but I can't be like Ariana. I'm so sorry.
Sweetie, I never want you to be anything other than you. I'm so proud of you. And I'm sorry if my actions ever came across differently to you. I wasn't mad at you. At all. I really just wanted to give you a hug last night, but I didn't hear anything from you and thought you might need some time on your own.
So, you're not upset that I'm not a singer?
Of course not, silly. I just want you to be happy and pursue whatever you love.
I'm glad Mom and I had cleared things up, but I couldn't stop thinking about Enid and why she did what she did. So that evening, I texted her. The lip sync was a bad call, but it made me realize that no one's good at everything. We all have our own strengths. Mine isn't singing, but yours is. Your voice is truly angelic, so don't let anything stop you from doing what you love. I'm glad we're okay now. You're right. Being a singer angel doesn't require a stick figure. Thank you, and I'm sorry. I'm relieved that's all sorted. And Enid learned her lesson and now realizes just how amazing she is. I was anxiously waiting backstage for my performance. Luckily, I had Brian by my side to support me, even if he was fussing a bit too much. I'm only the backup dancer. Go check on Ariana. She's the star of the show. I'm not the one on his mind. You're his one and only priority. Hey, he even gave up his chance to sign up for opening performance for you. Huh? You really did that for me? Your priority? Since when?
Yes, since I saw you emceeing on the first day of school.
My name's Mary. I'm 20 years old, and I grew up with a very strict and religious mother. Every Sunday during church, I would say the same prayer to God. Please, God, help my mother to change into a different person to make my life easier and more comfortable. I never actually expected God to answer my prayers, but then something completely unexpected happened. Living with my mother wasn't easy for Dad and me. She was very strict and always had her ridiculously high standards. As a result of this, she gave us both a long list of daily house chores, and she could turn from a well-tempered woman into a monster at the slightest thing. Once, when I was dusting, I accidentally smashed one of her beloved cat ornaments, and she locked me in my bedroom for a full day. Another time, Dad forgot to take the trash out, so she emptied it into his briefcase. Mom also liked to have us live by her rules. Dinner was at 7 p.m. prompt. Bedtime was at 9:30 p.m. with no room for adjustment. And under no circumstances was I allowed to ever go out with a boy. I mean, come on, I'm a 20-year-old girl. I started dating this guy called Ben in secret. He's such a kind, caring guy, but I knew Mom wouldn't see it that way. So when I went round to his, I had to pretend to her that I was meeting friends. It was difficult having to lie to Mom, and it sucked that I couldn't stay over at his place. I was a grown woman, but Mom made me feel like I was still a little girl. As much as Dad and I loved Mom, her strict rules and temper were getting to us. One time, I overheard Mom yell at Dad, "You're a useless old fool, and I don't know why I married you." I walked into the kitchen to find Dad sighing deeply while staring blankly into space. Turns out, her outburst was all because he'd made toast with the bread Mum was saving for sandwiches. I felt so bad for him, so the next time I was at church, I said my usual prayer to God. I never expected Mum to actually alter her ways, but then everything changed 180 degrees after the terrible accident. My mum had a serious car crash in which the airbag didn't pop out in time. She bumped her head hard and ended up in a coma. Seeing Mum lying there unconscious and helpless was horrible. I prayed to God for her to wake up, even if it meant putting up with her strict rules. I actually believed that she was in this state because of me and my evil prayers. But then, a miracle happened. After 3 whole agonizing months, my mother woke up. Thank you, God, for answering my prayers again. Only my mother was looking at me like I was a complete stranger. Then she said to me, "Sweetie, do you go to my school? As you look familiar." Huh? What was going on? Then, when she saw her reflection in the mirror, she screamed and said, "How am I so old? This mirror's broken." The doctor ran some tests. Turns out, Mum lost all her memories that happened after she was 18. So, in my mother's mind, she's still an 18-year-old schoolgirl. Having a mother with the mindset of a teenage girl was, well, difficult. We had to decorate the spare room with a load of posters of bands from the 80s I've never heard of before. We had to teach her what a laptop was and show her how to use the cooker. Also, she never cleans anymore, and she even steals my clothes. My dad now works a lot, and I'm stuck playing mum to my mum. I once caught her trying to sneak out in my miniskirt and tie-dye t-shirt, and I folded my arms and scowled at her. "You're not going out dressed like that." She got so mad with me and sulked off to her room. OMG. I just realized I was becoming my mother. But she did look ridiculous. She's a 45-year-old woman, not some teenaged girl. But after the initial shock of my mother acting like a completely different person, I began to warm to her. She was funny, super curious, and most importantly of all, she didn't care about rules. Although one time my cell rang, this startled her so much that she grabbed it and threw it in the sink. Yeah, I wasn't overly impressed, but I guess it was kind of funny. She just didn't understand this world anymore. The one thing I did enjoy was having pamper evenings with her. She put scrunchies in my hair and helped me put my mask on. Then we chatted for hours about school, mean girls, and cute boys. Yeah, so, okay, talking about boys with my mom was weird, but it felt like this wasn't my mom at all, but someone new entirely. Then she asked me if I had a boyfriend, and I nodded without hesitation. Now I can comfortably talk about him without being afraid of her judgment. I told her, Ben is so cute, polite, mature, and very talented, and he's so good with technology. Oh, he sounds swell, she smiled. Could you invite him over to show me how to use that face-what's-it thing on the computery thing? I replied, sure, sure, Wendy. This was great. Now, not only could I be open about having a boyfriend, but now instead of feeling afraid of Mum, I was friends with her. Ben came over and helped Mum out with the computer and things. She still seemed completely puzzled by it all, but he seemed so chilled around her, even when she picked up the laptop and began to shake it in an attempt to get it to turn on. Yeah, the on button helps. I left them to it and went to get orange juice, but then I walked back into the room to see her brushing her fingers through his hair. When she saw me, she quickly pulled her hand away, and I was left wondering if I imagined it. But then later on, when we were watching a movie, she made a big deal of sitting next to him. Did my mom have a crush on my boyfriend? No, surely not. But then, after Ben left, Mom said, "That Ben is so handsome. Unlike that old man that also lives here, he has terrible dress sense and smells like cod liver oil tablets." This shocked me. Poor Dad. I guess it was a good thing he was working away so much, as I don't think he could have dealt with Mum being like this. Then, a few days later, Mum invited Ben over for dinner to thank him for helping her. At that point, I thought that maybe I was just too skeptical. My mother may be childish and impulsive, but she would never be her daughter's rival, right? While I was cooking in the kitchen, the two of them were laughing non-stop in the living room. They told each other endless stories, and it was annoying that my mother kept praising him and jumping up and down like a kid. I had to put on headphones and try to focus on cooking so I didn't have to hear those ridiculous sounds. But when I finished prepping dinner and took off my headphones, the house was strangely quiet. Where did they go? I walked out into the living room to the most horrifying sight. While Ben was trying to focus on the computer screen, my mother was sitting next to him on the sofa, her hands all over him. What the heck? Her hand was moving downwards and touching his thigh. "Stop!" I shouted. Startled, Ben stood up. That's when I noticed sweat drenched his shirt. He stuttered out, I didn't do anything. Your mother." And then he ran away. Needless to say, about my mom, she didn't look embarrassed at all. On the contrary, she turned to me and moaned out, "Thanks a lot, Mary. You scared off my date." I went crazy, threw a mirror at her, and told her to have a long, hard look at herself. She screamed back at me that Ben loved her because of her soul, not her age or appearance. And you know what? My mom and Ben are now texting each other. I don't know what's more shocking, that my mom's trying to steal my guy, or that she actually figured out how to text. Ben showed me some of the messages, and they're so bad, I actually thought I was going to vomit. One message said, "Please, Ben, I want to meet up in secret and kiss you and things. Mary never needs to know." Ben explained to me that he didn't know what to do. He says he loves me and never wants to risk losing me, but he didn't want to be rude to my mom as he knew she wasn't herself. Poor Ben having to deal with all this. From now on, I'm keeping Ben and my mom apart. So I've gone from having a secret boyfriend to having a mom who wants to kiss my boyfriend. My life is crazy. Please, God, I don't recognize my disciplined, strict mother anymore. And as challenging as it was to be around her, I miss her, and I just want her back.
Hi everyone, Jack here. I'm 17 and I live with my mom, dad, and sis. We're pretty much a normal family. I suppose I do okay at school. I'm not super popular or anything, as I am a little on the shy side, but I'm not unpopular either. I'm really good at sports studies, and I definitely want to pursue this further when I go to college and stuff. Anyway, I want to tell you about my best friend Danny, and the girl of my dreams, Amy. I first met Danny at the age of 10. We were both at the local pool, and back then, I was energetic and, well, I did a lot of stuff without thinking it through. I started splashing about in the pool, and soon I realized I couldn't put my feet on the ground. I couldn't swim, so yeah, this was bad. I began to panic and tried shouting out for help, but a load of water ended up in my mouth. Then Danny appeared and helped me over to the shallow end. Turns out he was new to town and was starting at the same school that I went to. After that, we became best friends. Danny's this effortlessly cool, stylish, and handsome guy. He was always more popular than me, and all the girls liked him, but still, he chose to be friends with me. Being around him was great fun. We hung out, played football, and goofed around. There's this girl from school called Amy. She's popular and beautiful. She always wears these pretty dresses, and well, she just stands out. Problem is, I wasn't the only one to notice this. Practically every boy at school had a crush on her. I didn't think I stood a chance with her, but then the school picnic happened. I ended up in the same group as her, so I went over to her and tried to talk. I felt so nervous that I couldn't get any words out. Then I tripped over a branch and accidentally fell into her arms. In that moment, I imagined we looked into each other's eyes and she could see how much I liked her. Then we'd kiss and date and marry and live happily ever after. But yeah, that wasn't reality. In real life, I was stiff as a log and was so embarrassed. I quickly snapped out of it, got up and muttered out, "Sorry." She giggled and said, "No problem. I hope you didn't hurt yourself." Amazingly, we started chatting after that. Things quickly changed between Amy and me. We talked a lot on Messenger, and I often sat with her at lunch. She was so fun to be around, and I loved spending time with her. Then we started dating. I often had to pinch myself to convince myself that yes, I really was dating the most beautiful girl in school. We both loved nature, so we often spent our weekends going for walks and exploring new places. Our first kiss happened in my room. We were meant to be working on our science project, but I couldn't stop staring at her. She was just so beautiful. So I leaned over and kissed her. It was like fireworks were going off around us. Talk about magical. After that, we became pretty much inseparable. I often went out to restaurants with her family, and she regularly came over for dinner with mine. Things were amazing. She was my princess. With her around, I felt so happy, and I couldn't imagine my life without her in it. Then one night, she texted me, "I love you." This made me smile, and I sent back, "I love you too, Amy." Then, to my surprise, she messaged back, "What is love anyway?" I didn't understand what she meant, but before I can send another message asking this, she sent me a video of her with Danny, my best friend Danny. Then she messaged me, "This is what real love looks like." Couldn't believe what I just saw. I immediately threw my phone across the room. I was so heartbroken. How could she do this to me? And with my best friend? I cried days and nights. It was horrible. I felt like I'd never be happy again. I rarely cry, so my family was really worried and tried every way to console me, but nothing they said or did could cheer me up. Worse still, I was dreading going back to school and having to see them together. They didn't make it easy for me. As soon as I got to my locker, I saw them there, kissing. Word got around that they were very much in love. So much for her ever loving me. It hurt so much. Danny didn't seem bothered that he'd hurt me. That's the problem with Danny. He doesn't think sometimes. He just goes after what he wants without a care for who he stomps on in the process. Plus, we weren't as close as before anymore. Ever since high school started, he'd been hanging out with some bad guy. I told him that Amy was a liar and that she would soon go off him, but he just shrugged and said, "Whatever." I know you're probably wondering why I stayed friends with Danny after what he did. I guess I'm too nice, but I just couldn't break our 7-year relationship over this. It was bad enough I'd lost the love of my life. I couldn't afford to lose my best friend too. Yes, I felt betrayed and angry, but Amy had made her choice, and it wasn't me. Then one night I was on my way home on the metro. The only free seat was next to Amy, so I sat down next to her. At first it was awkward, and neither of us spoke. Then I asked her, "Why did you cheat on me?" She replied, "Well, Danny's the richest, most popular, and best-looking guy in school. I only used you to get closer to him." This was horrible to hear. I was so mad that I chose to stand for the rest of the journey back. The next day I tried telling Danny what Amy had said. He told me I was just being jealous, shoved me, and yelled at me that I needed to stop being so bitter. We didn't talk for 2 weeks after that. I felt so lonely, but it turns out neither Danny nor Amy were the people I thought they were. Danny tried calling, but I ignored his calls. He also sent me some lame apology messages, but I didn't reply. Then one day, he showed up on my doorstep, gave me chocolate, and asked me to go for a walk in the woods with him. I took my GoPro with me. As I said before, I love nature. I always film the scenery on my walks. I asked him if he truly loved Amy, and to my surprise, he said that girls were like chewing gum. You had to chew till the end and then spit them out. He said he would use Amy one last time, then finish with her, then let his friends have her. Then he would move to another city and do it all over again. This was shocking to hear. I knew he could be reckless, but I didn't think the boy who saved my life when we were 10 was capable of being so cruel. I told him I never wanted to talk to him again, and I stormed off. My GoPro had been recording the whole time, so it was about time I took revenge on my shattered heart, wasn't it? Thing is, as mean as Amy has been, I still care about her. I thought about it a lot, and eventually decided that she deserved to know the truth, so I sent her the recording. Even after seeing it, she made out I'd edited it to make Danny sound bad, as I was just jealous. I knew that her parents thought she was so sweet and innocent, so I told her that if she didn't split up with Danny, I'd send them the video clip. She tried to resist at first, but soon she gave up and begged me not to show it to them. I later found out that she'd continued to see Danny in secret for weeks after that, but eventually, she saw the dark side to him. She even came up to me at school and thanked me for trying to help her, and apologized for hurting me. I didn't try to save her from Danny because I was feeling sympathetic toward her or anything like that. Instead, I believe that witnessing a crime is as bad as committing it. I guess that as mean as Amy had been to me, I didn't want to see her hurt, especially not by that jerk. Actually, after that, she's even reached out to me once and asked me to be her boyfriend again. But of course, I wasn't a fool. A leopard can't change its spots, so I made it clear to her that my answer was and would always be no, and that we should just stay friends. While me and Danny, we aren't friends anymore. I have other friends, but it's hard. as a part of me does still miss him, but I don't like the person he's become. Thanks for listening to my story. I hope that you guys don't go through what I did, but if you do, I hope you find the strength to do the right thing, however hard this.
Hi, it's Arnie here again, just your regular computer-loving nerd. I've come back to tell you more about my story. Here's a quick refresher. I love my girlfriend Camilla, but she's addicted to romantic fiction. At times, it's like she even thinks she lives in one of those novels, which has led to plenty of awkward situations. Then one day she took it too far when she told me she was letting this handsome guy called Zach pursue her. Apparently, if I loved her, I'd fight for her and win her heart, just like the characters in her book did. I ignored Camilla for a full week after that. Then I walked past the basketball court and saw her there. She was watching Zach play, and she cheered and whooped when he scored. My heart flipped. Zach was so handsome, while I was some lanky nerd with messy hair, dowdy clothes, and a bloated belly. I was definitely the underdog in this competition. Feeling discouraged and missing Camilla a lot, I confided in my sister Paula. I guess I expected her to take my side, but instead, she advised me to stand up and take action. If I wanted to get Camilla out of her virtual world, then firstly, I'd have to step into her world to get her back. Paula told me that all girls love romantic fiction, and that Camilla loves them even more than most. So I should discover why she loves them so much by reading some myself. Then I could understand her and help her. Okay, so I guess Paula's plan made sense. But seriously, I was a computer guy, and now I was expected to read soppy books? Still, I'd do whatever it took to win back the heart of Camilla, as I truly do love her. Camilla had left some of her books at mine, so I started reading them. I'm a logical guy, so it didn't take me long to figure out the general format of these books. So I decided to learn from them in order to defeat Zach and win Camilla's heart back. So I derived a plan. The first lesson from these books seemed to be always love yourself first and love will come after. Okay, so maybe I was a bit scruffy. I guess I didn't resemble a guy who loved himself. So I went to the hairdressers, and instead of instructing them to do my usual short all over please cut, this time I asked them to give me more of a suitable and trendy style. Next, I asked Paula to come shopping with me, and she picked out some smart-looking jeans and a couple of nice polo shirts. Now, who said nerds couldn't have style? Finally, I faced my nemesis. Sports. Ugh. If I knew I wanted to have a well-built body, like Zach, then I needed to get fit. So I hit the gym and started jogging. For the first few weeks, I was a sweaty mess. But then I improved and actually found myself enjoying running. One time I was jogging through the park when I saw Camilla sitting on a bench reading. I jogged on the spot in front of her and said, "Hey." She was so shocked when she looked up and saw me that she dropped her book. As I bent down and picked it up for her, I turned around on purpose so she could check out my newly improved butt. I continued running, then peered back and saw her peering over at me from over her book. Talk about success. Now for the second lesson I learned from the reading soppy novels, the heroine should love a guy who she has this undeniable connection with. So finally, after 3 weeks of no messages or calls, I text her. "Camilla, I'd like to say that I accept your challenge and I'll prove my true love for you." The next day I waited outside of Camilla's class and invited her to lunch. To my annoyance, Zach appeared and invited himself along too. In the canteen, I pulled Camilla's chair out for her and told her I'd go pick out some food for her. "And I'll bring it over," Zach butted in. "How about if we both pick food and Camilla chooses which she wants to eat?" I replied. Needless to say, Camilla looked so excited. 2 guys were trying their hardest to impress her. This was a dream to her. I know how much Camilla loves bound salad, so I ordered a massive portion of them for her. And then I also got her a flapjack, while Zach chose some boring chicken fries for her and a massive burger for himself. Camilla looked at both trays of food, then dived straight in for the bound salad. Success again! Although poor Zach looked so disheartened that I even felt sorry for him. Well, almost. Last but not least, the third lesson. Although handsome guys often say cheesy words, that's not the point. What really makes the heroine happy was the feeling of being unique, the only one in someone's heart. Okay, so I have no idea how to say cheesy stuff, but I do truly care about Camilla and think she's a unique and special girl. So I needed to prove this to her, right? I put my plan into action. I showed up outside Camilla's door smartly dressed and holding a massive bouquet of flowers. Camilla appeared and looked flustered as she took the flowers off me. I told her I was taking her to the cinema, but she just blushed and replied, "Sorry, Arnie, I'm meeting Zach there, as I've already arranged to see that movie with him." I felt gutted, but I forced a smile and replied, "Oh, okay, sure. I hope you have a nice time. I'll go with my friend then." But I went home, changed, then went for a jog. Yeah, I know what was happening to me. After that, I felt so frustrated, so I went on my computer for a bit. I couldn't get the thought of Zach and Camilla sharing popcorn and cuddling up together out of my head. I was beginning to think I was wasting my time. And no matter what I did, Camilla would always choose a guy like Zach over me. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was Camilla. She was sobbing and asked where I was. She wanted to see me. Without even thinking, I rushed to her place. Before I could even ask her what was up, she ran into my arms and started kissing me. Okay, this was crazy and unexpected, but good. Very, very good. I made her a grilled cheese sandwich, then we cuddled on the couch. She asked me, "You told me that you'd gone to the cinema with your friend. So why could you be here with me?" I looked at her and said, "Yes, that's what I said, but I just wanted to go there with no one but you." She giggled and kissed me. This all seemed so surreal. And I'd worried I'd read so many romantic fiction books that I was now stuck in one. Then she told me that she'd shown up at the cinema only to find Zach wasn't there. So she'd waited for ages. Then he messaged her saying he was at a party and had forgotten to cancel their date. This proved to her that Zach didn't care about her at all. And it dawned on her that she didn't like him either. She loves me, and she had to see me straight away. From then on, Camilla ignored Zach. She apologized to me for all she'd put me through, and told me that lanky or not, she loved me unconditionally. She also promised to try and stay grounded, and to be not quite as dreamy, and to remember to take breaks to eat during her reading splurges. I know she loves fiction, and I would never ask her to stop reading the books she so loves. But I did ask her to limit her reading. Now she reads one book a week. Now things between us are better than ever. She still gets dreamy at times, especially after she's finished her latest book. But we both now realize how much we love each other, and we wouldn't want to be without each other. Besides, whenever she gets in her post-depressive book state, I handle it by being extra romantic toward her. I buy her colorful flowers. I take her on romantic picnics in the park. And I make her breakfast in bed, complete with heart-shaped pancakes. We also reserve one night a month for fantasy date night, where we both pretend to be characters from a romance novel. It's actually great fun, and Camilla loves it. I may be a computer nerd and Camilla a book geek, but that doesn't mean we don't work well together. Prince Charming doesn't have to gallop in on a stallion and have perfect hair. No. Instead, it turns out he can just be a normal, computer-loving nice guy.
Hello, everybody. I'm Caitlin. My short height and young looks may make me look like a kid, but appearances can be deceptive. I'm actually 34 years old. I know it sounds crazy, but it's all down to my super rare condition called Turner syndrome. It's a disease that only females have. It means I only have one X chromosome, and as a result, it means I look far younger than I am. And I'm in the same height as your average 11-year-old. So even though I'm an adult, I pass for a kid. You may think this sounds great. Sure, I can go crazy in a candy store without raising suspicion, but other than that, looking way younger than I am is hard to live with. I'm the oldest of 3 kids. My bro Jeremy and sis Dayla may be younger than me, but because of my condition, they both look older than me and they tower above me. I'm going to take you back to when I was 16 and my parents noticed that not only did I look younger than Dayla, but I was shorter than her too. I told myself it was nothing. I was just a slow developer, that's all. But my mom thought otherwise, so she dragged me to 7 different doctors. Then voila, one of them diagnosed me with Turner syndrome. Naturally, neither me nor my family had ever heard of this condition before. I mean, come on, a disease that makes someone stay young forever? It sounds like something out of a movie. Relax, I'm not dying or anything, but it does mean I'll never look like an adult. I realize people spend a bunch of money to look young, yet here I am, doing it without even having to try. But trust me, looking like a little kid when you're not one can be problematic. For instance, high school was a nightmare. I had this one friend called Alice. At first, we were pretty inseparable, but as time passed and she aged and I didn't, she began to single me out and join the other girls in making fun of me. They pretended to make baby crying noises when I walked past them, and one of them even put a baby doll in my locker with a picture of my face stuck to it. I stopped being friends with Alice after that, and watched on with sadness as other girls my age started dating boys, but no guy ever noticed me. Like, seriously, they literally didn't notice me, especially the tall ones. And for the few that looked down and saw me, well, they made corny jokes like, "Hey, Caitlin, how's the weather down there?" And, "Someone better call kindergarten as they're missing a kid." However bad the teasing got, Dayla and Jeremy were always there for me. From cheering me up when I felt down, to passing me the cookie jar off the top shelf. I may be small, but I'm determined. So I made it to college and ended up qualifying as a teacher. On my first day of my new job, I was extremely nervous, but I reassured myself that I could do this. On seeing me for the first time, my students were surprised and clearly confused. One of them spoke and said, "Excuse me, little girl, are you lost or something? Where's your mommy?" Wow, the nerve of that girl. As if she just said that. I decided to take a deep breath and said, "No, I'm your teacher. I may look like an 11-year-old child, but I assure you that I'm not." They all snorted and laughed, and one kid said, "Yeah, right." So I passed my ID card around the class. I couldn't help but smile as one at a time they looked down at my ID with shocked faces. Priceless. During my first class, I taught my students about Turner syndrome, so they could understand it. After that, they were respectful toward me. Apart from this one boy who clearly viewed himself as the class clown. Then he said, "You know, maybe next time you should wear a chipmunk outfit, or maybe an elf costume because that will totally fit you." The whole class laughed. So I gave him 4 weeks detention. I can assure you there was no laughter after that, nor did anyone make any comments about my condition again. One lunchtime, I was sitting in the staff room when the science teacher named Henry came over and sat next to me. Then he smiled and said, "Hey, how's your first week going?" Talk about handsome. My legs instantly felt like a jelly. We started talking about my condition, and he was very sweet about it. "I don't mind. I studied Turner syndromes before. It's okay because I like you. It's who you are." His words made my heart flutter. He was so sincere and kind. We started hanging out more, and then we started dating. Don't tell anyone, but sometimes I found him so irresistible that I couldn't resist kissing him in the janitor's closet. Of course, my condition caused us some problems. One time Henry and I were in a bar. I asked the bartender if I could have some vodka. He said, "Sorry, kiddo, you're too young to have some alcohol." Even when I showed him my ID, he still wouldn't serve me. Unbelievable. Another time we were kissing on a bench in the park. It was so romantic. Until some old lady screamed at us, "You sick pervert, how can you kiss a little girl?" To make it even more awful, 2 police officers showed up and I had to explain myself to them and show them my ID. Luckily, they believed me, and Henry wasn't arrested, but the old woman continued to give Henry dirty looks. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get any more awkward, we popped into the grocery store. Henry had just passed me the cereal, which I was too short to reach, when I heard someone behind me say, "Caitlin? Is that you?" Oh boy, I recognized that voice. I turned around and, yep, it was my old childhood friend Alice. She smirked and said, "Wow, you haven't changed a bit." But I'm not surprised. You never change. I replied, "Don't you have somewhere else to be? I'm hanging out with my boyfriend." She gave a shocked look as she looked at Henry. "Wait, you're dating her? Isn't she, a bit on the short side for you?" He just shrugged and told her, "I don't care what you think of her, as she's the most amazing woman I've ever met." She flicked her hair and replied, "Why don't you date someone your own size? I mean, look at me. I'm beyond sexy." "Yeah, from space." I rolled my eyes. Everyone in the store started laughing at her. Now look who's embarrassed. You know what they say, payback's, well, you know the rest. Regardless of all this drama, Henry stuck by my side and continued to support me, He even arranged for our families to meet. We met up in a restaurant. When Henry's parents saw me, they were kind of surprised. His mom greeted me with a hug, but his dad just glared at me. My parents keep asking Henry questions while Dayla and Jeremy chatted with Henry's twin sisters about sports. Things were going fine until out of nowhere, Henry's dad slammed his hand on the table and said, "I can't take this anymore. You shouldn't date my son. He's too good for you. Your shortness is going to ruin his life." I tried to keep composed, but inside this hurt more than I can possibly express into words. Henry stepped in and said, "That's enough, Dad. You can't treat people like that just because they're different. Shame on you." Then he got down on one knee and took a ring out of his pocket. "Caitlin, I love you, and I always will. So will you do me the great honor of becoming my wife?" At first, I was speechless, but then I found my words and said, "Yes, yes, yes, I will marry you." I was crying with joy, and my family and his mom were clapping and hugging each other. But then Henry's dad shook his head in disgust. Then he stormed off. On our wedding day, Henry's dad refused to show up. I felt so bad for Henry, but he told me we shouldn't let his dad's bad choice ruin our perfect day. I was about to walk down the aisle when his dad burst into the room. Oh no, was he going to ruin the wedding? Everyone was staring at him, and I thought I was going to collapse from the shock of it all. But then he said, "I'm sorry for how I acted. It was wrong of me to judge you on your condition. I would very much like to be here for your wedding if you'll have me." I cried out, "Yes, of course, take a seat." Our wedding day was magical, and so was our life together. Things are still going well for Henry and me, and I'm now the happiest I've ever been. I may have the appearance of a child, and yes, my condition is never going to go away. But my life as an adult is amazing, and this is all thanks to the remarkable people I have in my life. I'm so fortunate to have them supporting me, and with them by my side, I'm able to find my inner strength and conquer any obstacles that get in my way, however big they may be.
Hey, I'm Millie. I'm 14, and I have the biggest crush on my older brother's best friend, Jason. When my brother said Jason and his other friend were staying over that weekend, I was super excited. Things got even better when my parents planned a last-minute trip away, and our cool Aunt Cheryl came to stay with us. We both knew that she'd be too busy binge-watching her fave soap opera to care about what we did. That's why she's the coolest aunt. So I decided to also throw a slumber party, and I invited my two best girlfriends, Jane and Rosie, over. My plan was that we could order pizza and ask my brother and his friends to join, so I'd have a chance to hang out with Jason. I knew they'd say yes. I mean, when did boys ever turn down pizza? After we all ate loads of pizza, we watched scary movies together and played games. It was really fun. So fun, in fact, that even my usually moody brother couldn't stop laughing. I wore my cutest pajamas and was extra nice to Jason, making sure he always had a drink and stuff. We played 2 truths and 1 lie, and the boys lost. So we made them give up the mattresses in my brother's room for us to sleep on, as sharing my bed with 2 friends was kinda uncomfortable. The boys had to carry the mattress to my room and make the bed for us. It felt so good to be able to have one up on my brother and boss him around. Rosie and I got into my bed, and Jane claimed the mattress, as she tossed and turned loads in her sleep. For fun, we ordered the boys around a little more. I made them check the room for spiders and to take the trash downstairs. Then, Jason turned off the light for us and said goodnight before they went back to their room. That was so sweet. We chatted for a bit. Then Jane said she felt left out, so she crawled into my bed. It was too cramped for me to sleep, but that didn't seem to stop the others from drifting off. I kept thinking about Jason and how I was sure he'd been looking at me as he turned the light off. I went downstairs to get myself a glass of water, and on the way back to my room, I heard noises coming from my brother's room. I listened outside of the door. They were playing truth or dare of some sort. I heard them teasing Jason about liking one of us, and said that the next dare would be to sneak into the girl's room. Worried that they'd walk out and see me, I quickly ran back to my room. I didn't even have time to climb into my bed, so I threw myself onto the mattress and laid still. Then, a while later, I heard footsteps. It must be Jason. His shadow got closer to me, and it felt like he was leaning down. And then he kissed me! OMG! I tried my best to pretend like I was asleep. Then I couldn't hold it in anymore. I kissed him back. He gently stroked my hair, then left. I couldn't believe it! He liked me too? And that was my first kiss ever! The next morning, I woke up early, did my hair, put on a pretty dress, and made pancakes for breakfast. I made one in a heart shape for Jason, which I set up on the table. But when everyone came downstairs, my brother took that heart-shaped pancake and gave it to Jane before I could do anything. Did he like my best friend? Ew, no way! After everyone left, I immediately told my brother he couldn't like my friend, but he told me that she liked him too. He said he knew I liked Jason, so we should join forces and help each other out. That kinda sounded like a sweet deal, so I agreed. My brother set up a movie date for Jason and me by saying it's just a normal weekend hangout. Then he bailed out last minute. The date was perfect. I accidentally touched Jason's hand when we both reached for the popcorn. I thought that this was it. It's time for me to talk to him frankly. So after the movie, we grabbed a drink and I said to him, I know you like me. Let's stop acting as if nothing happened. He looked confused and laughed. Then I went on more specifically. You know, that night you came into my room? But he kept looking really lost, saying that he didn't go into my room that night at all. Then his phone rang. It was Jane calling him. Her picture showed up on the screen. Why does he have her phone number? He picked up and told her he'd be over shortly. I immediately asked him about it. Then he stuttered, saying that actually, he and Jane had just started dating. They first met at my slumber party and had exchanged social media accounts and have been talking to each other nonstop ever since. He also said that they were thinking about how best to tell me and my brother about this. And thank you. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have met Jane. But what were you talking about before? Continue. Stunned, I quickly replied with, Gotcha! I was just kidding. It was a dumb dare. My brother dared me to prank you because I lost a game to him. I made my excuses and swiftly left after that. I felt completely mortified. When I arrived home, I threw a tantrum and told my brother everything, including the part about me overhearing them playing Truth or Dare and the kiss. He just sat there listening with his mouth wide open. And then things all came to light. They dared Jason to go into the girls' room and draw on our faces, but he refused, so he chose Truth instead. And he answered a question saying that out of all the girls, he liked Jane the most. After that, my brother felt uneasy. He was confident that Jane had eyes on him, too, so he pretended to go to the bathroom, and then he came into my room. And before he could stop himself, he kissed Jane, and she kissed him back. But turns out, it was me! I was the girl who was lying on the mattress! He then screamed at me. Why did you suddenly switch beds? While I screamed back, you stole my first kiss? This is so disgusting and awkward. We quickly calmed down and stopped yelling at each other because it's even too embarrassing to fight about. We then swore to keep this a secret till the day we die. And now we have 2 heartbroken siblings who have accidentally kissed each other in this household. Not to mention, from now on, we will have to watch our crushes being all lovey-dovey with our friends, too. This is a nightmare. Hi, I'm Nicole. I grew up in a small town. You know, the kind where everyone knows each other's business. Don't let my pretty appearance and feminine ways fool you, as I'm a tough cookie. But my best friend Dominique, well, she lets people walk all over her, which really annoys me. I always went out of my way to protect her, but I never expected to lose her as a best friend. Dominique and I met way back in kindergarten. This other girl was teasing her about her pigtails, so I stormed over there and pushed her into a muddy puddle, which resulted in her running off in tears. Dominique gave me the sweetest look and shyly thanked me. After that, we became pretty much inseparable. We pinky promised each other that we'd always be there to protect each other, and we'd never date anyone, as boys were stupid. But then high school happened. Dominique grew prettier and prettier, which meant lots of boys liked her. But she had the worst taste ever in boys, and she always went for guys who took advantage of her sweet nature. There was this one jerk from school called Brandon. He thought the world revolved around him just because he was okay looking and good at sports. Geez, he was the worst. Anyway, he made sure everyone knew about the lame party he was having. Dominique and I were standing by her locker when Brandon came and talked to us. After he left, I looked at Dominique. She turned as red as a lobster. I knew that look. She clearly had a crush on him. And I, as always, had to protect her from the latest jerk. I arranged to meet Dominique at the party. I arrived to find her standing in the corner chatting to Brandon. Ugh! I hurried over to them and started talking about odd things like how beautiful the weather was. Dominique noticed my weird behavior, so she asked Brandon to get us some drinks, then asked me what was up. I said to her, "Why are you hanging out with this guy? Don't you know how he treats girls like you?" She replied, "Girls like me? What's that supposed to mean? I don't need a babysitter. You can't tell me what to do." Then she walked off in a huff. Whatever, she could be that way. I was trying to protect her from a guy only after one thing. She didn't have to be so crass about it. I hung out with some of my other classmates, but continued to keep an eye on her. She barely left Brandon's side, and I noticed how he kept supplying her with drinks. When it got to the point that she nearly fell over, then giggled about it, I knew she'd drunk enough. I went over to her and told her I was taking her home. But Brandon had other ideas. He grabbed a bottle and announced that all of us were going to play Spin the Bottle. Ugh, could this night get any worse? Smirking, he passed me the bottle and said, "Ladies first." I snatched it off him. Jeez. I hoped the bottle didn't stop on Brandon, as I would probably throw up if I had to kiss his gross lips. I spun the bottle and I swear it took forever to stop spinning. And then the bottle finally stopped on Dominique. OMG! I had to kiss her. She's my best friend. Talk about weird. Everybody was laughing and cheering, "Kiss, kiss, kiss, kiss." We looked at each other and blushed. Then she closed her eyes and leaned towards me. I told myself that it was just some dumb game and it didn't mean anything. Before I also closed my eyes and we kissed. My heart started to beat really fast and my hands began to shake. It's so strange. I didn't feel weird at all. Actually, it felt warm and safe. We kissed for 10 seconds, but for me, it felt like 5 minutes. Before I could properly process what was going on, Brandon passed her the bottle. Oh no, it was her turn. She spun the bottle and it stopped on Brandon. Stupid Brandon! Oh, hell no. She has to kiss that jerk? Brandon looked like all of his Christmases had come at once. Jeez, I seriously hoped that when it was his turn, the bottle landed on a dude. He just grabbed her hand, pulled her towards him, and kissed her. I mean, really kissed her. And she kissed him back. Oh no. I thought I was going to throw up. Everybody was cheering. Well, except for me. Obviously, they wouldn't quit kissing, so I pulled him away from her and told her that that was enough. But he flinched me off and told me they were just getting started. Then he continued kissing her. Anger fueled me, so I grabbed Brandon and punched him in the face. Everyone was yelling at me, including Brandon, who made it clear I needed to leave his lame party. I looked at Dominique, but she glanced away from me. Then I saw Brandon put his arm around her shoulders. After that, I left without saying another word. I was angry, especially towards Dominique. She was my best friend, yet she chose to stay with that jerk over me. More confusingly, I couldn't stop replaying our kiss over and over in my mind. I'd dated a few guys before, but I'd never felt that way when I kissed them. With her, it felt like butterflies were in my stomach. Did I have feelings for my best friend? No way. I liked boys, right? My mood only worsened the next day at school. I was drinking coffee in the canteen when I heard some girls behind me talking about how Dominique had slept with Brandon last night. Talk about a surprise. I ended up knocking over my coffee in shock. Maybe I misheard them. So I turned around and asked the girls if it was true. And they all said yes. In that instance, I was just this empty vessel with no happiness left inside of me. When I saw Dominique in the corridor, she waved over at me, but I just walked away. The next few weeks were awful. I couldn't sleep, eat, or concentrate on anything. All I could think about was Dominique being with Brandon, and it made my heart hurt. I missed her smile, her laugh, and how happy she made me. Yep, I finally realized that I had feelings for my best friend, but she was in love with somebody else. I tried my best to move on, so I started dating some guy named Clay. He was kinda cute and a really nice guy. Clay was great and all, but I missed Dominique like crazy. Then one day, when Clay was round at mine studying, there was a knock at the door. To my complete shock, I opened the door to see Dominique standing there. I didn't know how to react. Part of me was so happy to see her, but she caused me so much pain. So I abruptly said, "What do you want?" "Nicole, please hear me out. I'm so sorry about what happened at Brandon's party. I really miss you, and there's something else I need to tell you." I couldn't deal with this right now. I still felt so hurt, so I told her to go. Then I went into the house and left her outside. Later on, I received a message from Dominique. "Dear Nicole, I'm really sorry about everything. I wasn't a good friend to you. You protected me, but I didn't appreciate it. I'm so stupid. I realize now that you are the best thing that ever happened to me. I love you, Nicole, but I get it now. We're not destined to be together. I hope Clay makes you happy. Your best friend, Dominique." Dominique loved me. She loved me too. I needed to see her right away, so I ran over to her house. But when I got there, it was like the end of the world. She wasn't there. But not only that, the house was empty. I tried calling her, but her number didn't exist anymore. Her neighbor told me Dominique's father had got a new job, so they'd all left in a hurry, and she didn't know where they'd moved to. And that's it. Dominique had erased herself from my life. I didn't even have the chance to tell her how I felt. I just sat outside her empty house and cried. I broke up with Clay after that. Then, when I graduated from high school, I left the town that held so many painful memories about Dominique and moved to college in New York. After 4 years, I graduated and decided to stay in the city. One day, I was having my morning coffee in my favorite cafe when I saw this woman across the street. She looked so familiar. Could it be? I couldn't believe my eyes. It was her. It was Dominique. I narrowly avoided being hit by a taxi as I rushed across the street to get to her. "Dominique, is that you?" I shouted. She turned and looked at me. "Nicole? Oh my God, how long has it been? 5 years?" Then I noticed that she was holding a kid's hand. He looked around 3 or 4 years old. "Is that your nephew? He's so cute," I said. "Actually, no. He's my son. His name is Nick. I named him after you." It turns out, before she'd left town, she'd fallen pregnant with Brandon's child. She decided to keep the baby and raised him alone with her family. And she hadn't told Brandon about him. Having her back in my life was amazing. There's no way I was losing her again. So one time when I was over at hers watching a movie, I found the courage to tell her how I felt about her. At first, she was quiet, and my heart sank at the prospect of her rejecting me. But then she smiled and told me she loved me too, and that she always had. I'm so relieved that this time around, I didn't make the same mistake that I made when I was younger. I'm so fortunate to have another chance with Dominique, and I will never let her go again. Her and Nick are my world. Our mistakes don't define us. Instead, they're there to learn from, so in the future, we're more capable of making the right choices. As soppy as it sounds, I guess true love will always prevail in the end. Hi, I'm Izzy, and my grandparents brought me up. It's not that my parents weren't around at all, it's just that they worked in New York, and, well, they were workaholics, so I ended up staying with my grandparents. My sister, Beatrice, or B as we all call her, lived with my parents. I don't know why this was exactly. It just kinda happened. My parents visited every Christmas and occasionally during spring break, but not having them around was normal for me. Then one summer, my parents showed up with B and told me they were moving to town and we were all going to live together. At first, this was weird as I was so used to barely seeing them, but then I decided it could be good, right? But, well, living with a little sister was more complicated than I thought. It's kind of bothersome. In fact, B even pushed me, an average drama-free girl at school, into a bunch of nonsense scandals. B's a sweet kid, but she's on the shy side and she can be a bit clingy. Probably because she still needed some time to fit into this new place, so she followed me and clung on to me all day long. But I just didn't get why she had to copy everything I did. I wore ripped skinny jeans, so she bought the exact same pair. I wore glitter pink lip gloss, so she did too. I got a new phone for my birthday, and she begged our parents until they caved and gave her one too. That kinda sucked, as I'd waited for ages for a decent phone, and she got one just by nagging. She had her own bedroom, but each night she came into my room and made me tell her stories about everyone at school, as she said this would help her make new friends faster. We'd chat about school, boys, friends, girl stuff. Then she'd fall asleep in my room. She stayed here pretty much every night, so in the end, our parents bought us bunk beds. But she then went and bragged about everything I told her to her classmates, so they'd think she's cool, since she got to hang out with seniors and knew their stories. One time, she leaked out the secret that my best friend Lee had a crush on Paul, and she told her friends that I was surely gonna be spring queen at the next prom. What? I didn't even think about trying out for that. Never! I'm not interested in that kind of attention. And obviously, the rumors got out. Lee stormed up to me, yelling and all, saying she never wanted to be friends again. I tried to explain things to her, but she didn't listen. And for the rest of the day, every time I walked across the hallway, the popular girls would smirk at me and say things like, "Who do you think you are?" Like, seriously, as if you could be spring queen? I hated this. I just wanted to have a normal, quiet life at school. I didn't like this attention, nor did I have any longing to be spring queen. This made me so mad. So later in the afternoon, I stormed into B's classroom during recess, dragged her aside, and told her to stop ruining my life with her big mouth. I didn't have much time to talk to her about exactly what had happened because I had to return to class, but I made sure to make my point and threw her a dirty look before I left. She looked pretty scared. I stomped back to class, but my tantrum didn't last long because during English Lit, my teacher paired me on a group project with two of my friends and Andy, the cutest guy ever. This was the perfect excuse to use the group study time to organize a meetup at my house. The plan was set. I just needed to come home, put on my cutest outfit, and wait for them to come over. I was so nervous that I didn't really mind about the feud with my sister anymore. I excitedly told her about Andy coming over, and she helped me tidy up my room and braid my hair. They arrived, and studying didn't last long. Soon, we were watching movies and playing games. Then B suggested we play 7 Minutes in Heaven. That's so childish, but the others seemed up for it. Besides, I figured it could work in my favor with Andy. We spun the bottle to decide, and when it was Andy's turn, B asked to spin it for him. Then she winked over at me and Andy. Then, to my horror, the bottle pointed at her. What was that? Is she stealing my crush too? This little brat. She and Andy went into the closet, and after 7 excruciating minutes, they walked out looking all smiley. I was so mad, but I kept my cool until they left. Then I screamed at B that she was a horrible, sneaky girl and to stay away from me. It got so heated, Mom had to come and tell me to stop. I slammed my bedroom door shut and even put my dresser in front of it so B couldn't come in. The next day, she tried apologizing to me, but I ignored her. She even left a candy bar on my pillow, but I just chucked it in the trash. To make matters worse, Andy approached me at school and went on about the fun he'd had at mine and how cool B was. What? So, what exactly did those two do in the closet? This was awful. Then, prom day came. I didn't have a date. Lee still wasn't talking to me, and trying to avoid B in my own house was draining. Then, Lee called me up excitedly and told me Paul had asked her to prom. I was so happy for her, and we made up. She invited me over to get ready for prom at hers. I packed my dress, my makeup, but my eyebrow pencil was missing. I mumbled, "Ugh, B," as she must have taken mine again. I knew she was at swimming practice, so I went through her drawer to find my makeup stuff. Nothing. Then I spotted something under her pillow. It looked like the end of a black pencil. This must be it. I took it out, but it wasn't an eyebrow pencil, just a normal pen. It was in the middle of a notebook. So curious. I pulled it out. That's when I glimpsed my name on the open page, so I picked it up to see what it was. It's her diary. I read through the first few pages. She said she loved me very much and that she was happy that she finally got to live in the same house as me. I found a specific page that was a little ripped. It was the day I yelled at her. I saw tears dried out on her words. She wrote how she really thought I was very beautiful and would win the Spring Queen title, and how she just wanted to help me and Andy get together, so she suggested the 7 minutes game. And she tried to aim the bottle at me, but it went wrong. And that when she was in the closet with Andy, she was only saying nice things about me to him. And she also found out that Andy had feelings for me. Also, she wrote that sleeping alone was so scary, but she didn't want to bother me anymore. She said she'd ruined everything and wished she could move back to her old house. I felt so guilty, and I just cried all the way to Lee's place and later told her everything. I was not in the mood for prom anymore, so even though everyone complimented me on my dress, I couldn't enjoy myself. Andy came forward and asked me to dance, but I couldn't quit thinking about B. I apologized to Andy for my bad mood, and he was so understanding. We ended up taking a walk outside, and I vented to him about how I'd misunderstood my sister. Then, suddenly, I spotted her with friends at the photo booth at the entrance. They looked like they were having so much fun, except for her. She looked so sad. I grabbed her arm from behind. She turned around, shocked, then quickly stepped back and went to leave, but I stopped her and told her I was sorry. I hugged her, and we both cried, and continuously said sorry to each other. Then I suddenly heard my name on the mic inside the venue. She then said, "Go, go! They must be crowning you as Spring Queen right now! Told you so!" Turns out I wasn't Spring Queen, but I did make prom court, which I guess is kinda cool. I was wrong to ever be mad at B. She never meant to cause any harm. I know that now. Later that evening, Lee and Paul came over and thanked B, as it was basically down to her that they were now together. Then Lee winked at Andy, who was standing next to me, and said, "You should also thank B, because it looks like we're having another couple here." Talk about awkward. So we both just shrugged it off and pretended not to understand what she meant. We spent the rest of the night dancing and having a great time. It felt so good to have my best friend and my little sis back in my life. I've now realized that having Bella with me all the time isn't so bad. Yes, she's annoying at times, but all she wanted was to have her big sis around. And I guess I have to admit that I like having my little sis around too.
Hey, Milo here, and let me tell you something about love. Well, love totally sucks. At least that's how I felt after my cheating ex Deanna broke my heart. Ouch. Deanna's 16 months and 15 days older than me. Not that I was counting or anything. I first met her in the park one morning. The heel on her shoe had broken, and being a sucker for a damsel in distress, I ran to the nearest store and bought her an emergency pair of flip-flops. She offered to take me out to lunch to say thank you. Then we hit it off. And that's how we started dating. We quickly fell madly in love despite the age difference. But then she had to go off to college. But it would just take a year being apart from each other because she'd made me promise to apply to the same school as her so we could be together. The future sounded amazing. I couldn't wait till graduation and start a new life with her in a new city. It was our 10-month anniversary, so I tried to be romantic and showed up at her place with a surprise bunch of flowers. But that's when I caught her in bed with some college guy. Talk about a bummer. I actually think I felt my heart snapped in two. I was so angry, I threw the bouquet to the ground and didn't forget to stomp on them a few times on my way out. So I took the train home and turned into that miserable guy who hates love. To make it even worse, Valentine's Day was approaching and loved-up couples were everywhere. Ugh, what a disgusting sight. If I couldn't have a happy Valentine's Day, then neither could anyone else. So I decided to mess with them. My friends were the money-making kind, so naturally, they wanted to cash in on the day of Lerv. If your heart is still intact, then you have no idea how much it sucks feeling heartbroken and being surrounded by chocolates, flowers, and fluffy teddy bears holding hearts. But I'd already agreed to help them as I figured I could spend the extra money on a gift for Deanna. But obviously, this was pointless now. I'm not the kind of guy to bail on my friends. So that's why I ended up in the park with a pull cart full of soppy items. Ugh. There were gooey eyes couples everywhere. I didn't know if I wanted to vomit or scream. I saw a couple walking toward me, so I decided to make this more interesting. Hello, sir. Can I interest you in a beautiful bouquet of roses to show your lovely mother here how much you love her? He stared at me in confusion and clumsily said no, while the girlfriend glared at me in anger as they're walking away. She kept hitting her boyfriend's arm, asking in an annoying girly tone, "Why didn't you tell him I wasn't your mom? Do I look that old? I can't believe this. You didn't even correct him." And then the guy had to calm her down in despair. Priceless. After that, I said it to every couple that came up to me. But then one of my friends noticed that I was chasing customers away with my dumb jokes, so she kicked me off the project. Oh well, it beat being around lovesick couples. So the day after, I had no schedule and was sitting in my bedroom watching an action film that had no romance in it and minding my own business when my sister barged into my room and told me that I had to babysit the neighbor's kid so she could go on some spontaneous date with her boyfriend. Apparently, our parents decided last minute to go out of town. So seeing as my sister's still dating in secret, her and her boyfriend thought that this was the perfect timing for them to hang out. Of course, I didn't agree to babysit, but she led the little kid into my room, said to me, "It's not like you have any Valentine plans anyway." Then she ran off. This little brat. Unlike my sister, I wasn't just going to abandon some little kid. So I begrudgingly took her to the mall and bought her an ice cream. When she finished that, she started whining at me that she wanted candy. Ugh, yawn. Kids are draining. Looking around at all the loved-up couples, I had a eureka moment. I told her I'd buy all the candy she wanted if she went up to this one couple, hugged the guy, and said, "Daddy, let's go home. I miss Mom." Turns out, she's a little daredevil, and she did it without question. Watching the shocked look on their faces was priceless. After a while of doing this, I bought the kid candy as promised. We sat on the bench laughing while thinking back on our achievement. We had so much fun. Then, I spotted a girl who'd turned me down in middle school. She was there with some guy. I quickly told the kid to hide behind the bench and winked, "Watch and learn, noob." Then I marched up to them, grabbed the guy's wrist and yelled, "So, is it because of this girl that we had to break up, you heartless swine?" Then I ran off pretending to cry. I hid behind the bench with the kid. Both of us laughed our heads off and ate candy as we watched the couple fighting in confusion. After a while, I dropped the kid back home. Then I went back to mine. Through the window, I saw that my sister and her boyfriend had already been back from their date and were saying goodbye outside. So I sneaked a pic of them. I couldn't wait to blackmail her with that and demand her to pay me extra money so that our parents wouldn't know about them. I waited in the living room with a smirk on my face. But 10 minutes passed, and she still hadn't appeared. I looked through the window to see them kissing, for like the zillionth time already. Ugh! She clearly didn't spare a thought for her heartbroken brother. So, I decided to be Cupid and grant them their wish. I raced outside with a big roll of duct tape and ran circles around them as I stuck their heads together when they were kissing. Now that is the best way to de-stress. I felt much lighter with every lap I ran. They both screamed out and tried to pull free, but they were well and truly stuck. So I left them there to untangle themselves and I whizzed off. The next morning, my sister gave me the most furious look across the table during breakfast. I swear there was fire in her eyes. But too bad she couldn't do anything to me as Mom was right there. I could even see a little bruise on her forehead as a result of my prank. I had to try so hard to hold my laughter. I felt this tingling feeling between the thrill and satisfaction, which made me totally forget about my failed relationship. I got such a kick out of messing with people's perfect love lives. And so I continued with my pranks on unsuspecting couples. Then, one time I walked up to a couple in the street and said to the girl, "Why are you here? Didn't you say you're working overtime? Can't I trust you anymore? I'll be home waiting for your explanation." Then walked off while giggling. But this time, a hand suddenly grabbed my shoulder. Then as I turned around, the guy punched me. Then I passed out. Talk about embarrassing. I woke up dazed and confused on the sidewalk with this cute girl looking down at me. The guy had left, thank goodness. The girl seemed so relieved that I'd woken up, and she kept telling me that I must have mistaken her with someone else because she didn't know me at all. I was too embarrassed, so I had to nod in agreement. She called a taxi and helped me get home. On the ride, she apologized because her boyfriend had a short temper, and they were already arguing at that moment. She told me her name was Vanessa. Then we switched contact details so she could check up on me. Then, one morning at school, I noticed her in the hallway. Turns out she went to my school, but I'd never spotted her before. She saw me too and smiled and waved over at me. We started spending lunchtimes together. She bought me cheese fries and gave me her delicious homemade cookies. She said she wanted to make it up to me. We unintentionally grew closer, and the next thing I knew, I found myself really fond of this girl. But she's taken, and it's with a jerk. She told me all about her boyfriend. He's called Kane, and he went to a different school, thankfully. She said he was a sweet guy, but sometimes he lashed out, and one time, he even hit her. It's clear her boyfriend's a doofus, but she was too blinded by love to see it. I wanted to whisk her away and show her what being with a good guy was really like. But to be honest, I was scared of being beaten up by him again. I opened up to her about my ex and how she messed me up. Vanessa listened and never judged. I felt so at ease being around her. Then one afternoon, I saw her in the hallway after class, and it looked like she'd been crying. So I went up to her and said, "Vanessa, are you okay?" She forced out a smile and replied, "Yeah, it's just boyfriend stuff." That's the moment when I decided that enough was enough. Scary boyfriend or not, no matter what it takes, I had to tell her my feelings and save her from him. I offered to drive her home. Then I planned to confess my feelings to her on the way home. But to my annoyance, she said it's okay as her sister was picking her up that day. Then she waved goodbye to me and ran over to a car. Wait a minute. I knew that car. Her sister, the girl in the car. That was my ex. Talk about a dilemma. How on earth did this happen? I swore to never see my ex again. I couldn't bear the thought of breathing the same air as her, but now I had a crush on her sister. Help! To make it even worse, I've told Vanessa all about how much I hate my ex. How can I let her know that the ex in question turned out to be her sister? Help me. This is so crazy, and I have no idea how to wriggle my way out of this one.
Hey, Sally here. I'm 25 years old, and I love makeup. I mean, I really love it. I don't even answer the door barefaced to the postman. My fascination with makeup started back when I was just a little kid. My mom was a famous beauty blogger and even created her own cosmetics brand. Everyone from renowned models to Hollywood actresses wanted to use her products. Back then, the industry was different. It wasn't about YouTube and different media channels. Instead, people like my mom had to take different avenues to promote their products. I remember how amazing it felt to walk into a drugstore and see my mom's makeup on the shelves. But then, my mom's world came crashing down, and it was all thanks to one lame model. I knew something was up when my dad picked me up from school. He barely ever picked me up. Mom always did. And weirder still, he didn't say a single word to me. Then, I walked into our house to find Mom standing in front of the mirror as she smeared makeup all over her face. My mom was a glamorous, perfect-looking woman. I'd never seen her look or act like this before. I remember just staring at her, not knowing what I should do or say. Then she started crying, which caused the makeup to streak down her face. I remember thinking that she looked like a scary clown. She seemed so out of control. In a harsh tone, my dad said to her, "Will you just look at yourself? How can you let Sally see you like this?" Then he covered my eyes and pulled me out of there. I asked him what was going on, and he sighed and told me how a model had a bad reaction to the products during my mother's live webcast, and now she was getting treatment at the dermatology hospital. She blamed it on my mom's cosmetics products, which meant that both the press teams and police were now involved. Now the beauty industry was boycotting the range that my mom had worked so hard to create. The next day after school, my mom seemed to be in good spirits. She took me for a milkshake, and we sang along to Disney tunes in the car. I thought that everything was back to normal, but then we arrived home, and she sat me down and said to me, "Sally, you're going to be my model and save this family." Then she filmed herself applying her makeup products on me. She turned to the camera and said, "See, I dare to use my products on my daughter's delicate skin because I know there's absolutely nothing wrong with them." The problem is that footage of a young girl having her makeup done is boring in comparison to the shocking pictures of a famous model with burned skin. All the brands turned their backs on her, and she went from super successful entrepreneur to blacklisted overnight. An investigation later proved that the model's skin damage was due to dangerous fake Botox injections, not my mom's products. But this was too little too late. as my mom had already lost all her deals and partnerships, and the money spent on pricey lawsuits made my family bankrupt. After that, Mom left the beauty industry behind her. But that afternoon changed my life. I always felt a sense of self-esteem as growing up in an environment full of famous beauties. But that day, after being put on makeup by my mother, I felt so pretty. I looked in the mirror and found myself like all the dream girls I'd seen from my childhood. My new, beautiful appearance made me more confident. Since then, I started practicing makeup, and this obsession doesn't stop until I grow up. By the age of 14, I wouldn't be seen leaving the house without a full face of makeup on. It gave me this added layer of confidence and made me feel ready to face the day. When I had my makeup on, then it didn't matter as much that my parents were now poor. I looked and felt beautiful, and I could handle the world. Now at 25, I still adore makeup. I'm a self-confessed makeup addict. Even my boyfriend, Chris, had never seen my bare face. When I stayed over at his, I went to bed with a full face of makeup on. Then I waited until he'd fallen asleep so I could sneak into the bathroom and take it off and moisturize. Then I woke up 2 hours before he did, just so I could apply my makeup, then get back into bed and look like I'd just woken up that glamorous. Yes, keeping up appearances was hard work, but when he looked at me like I was the most beautiful girl in the world, well, that made it so worth it. Only on one occasion, Chris woke up early and walked in on me doing my makeup. I totally freaked out and immediately covered my face with my hands and screamed out, "No, don't look at me! I'm hideous!" He laughed and said, "Don't be silly. A bit of makeup doesn't change the fact that I love you and think you're the most beautiful girl in existence." This was sweet and all, but I still shouted at him until he left the room so I could finish off my makeup. His words got me thinking though, did he really, truly love me? We'd been together for 2 years, yet he'd never ever seen me fresh-faced. So how could he possibly know if he loved me if I wasn't wearing it? I couldn't stop thinking about this. I needed to know if he truly loved me for me or not. So I took all my makeup off. Yep, even my clear lip gloss. Then I tied back my hair and put on casual clothes and a pair of sneakers. I was standing right behind him at his favorite cafe. I hesitantly went to the table where he was sitting and was confused as to how to speak. That was when he looked up at me while still scrolling through his phone and said, "Yeah, you can take that seat as I'm leaving soon." He didn't recognize me. Interesting. I sat down in front of him, pretending to be a shy, cute girl, and softly starting up a conversation. I tried varying the tone of my voice to ask what I should order, and it worked. He completely thought that I was just some random girl. After we chatted for ages, I said to him, "I see you don't really have to leave soon, huh?" He smiled and complimented me on being cute. It made me feel a lot more confident. So by then, I had the courage to tell him that I was his girlfriend. But suddenly he grinned and said, "If you don't have a boyfriend, I wonder if I have a chance to get to know you?" What? He was still in a relationship with me? Unbelievable! Well, another plan just popped up in my head, so I tried to stay calm and replied coyly, "I'd like that." After that, I started living 2 different lives. When I put my makeup on and become energetic and attractive, Chris complimented me on how beautiful and charming I was, and proudly showed me off to his friends. But when I appeared with a bare face and acted all coy, he said that he loved how sweet and rustic I was, and that he thought girls who wore makeup all day were tragic. Tragic? How dare he? He would lie about going out with friends so he could spend more time with makeup-free me. Then he kissed makeup me and told me how he loved how glamorous I was and how I was the only girl for him. Yeah, right. I couldn't believe how fake this guy was. There I was thinking he loved me, but now he was cheating on me. With me! A playboy like him didn't deserve any version of me. So it was time for revenge. So when he asked makeup-free me to go on a trip, I shyly accepted. I knew he just wanted to trick an innocent girl into bed with him. But I'm not an ordinary girl anyways. As he was chilling out in the pool, I shyly said I would take a shower and wait for him inside. And I swear I saw his eyes brightened like a magpie. I ran into the bathroom to turn the shower on. Then I left a trail of makeup-free me's clothes and then snuck out into the room nearby that I'd booked for the night. There, I transformed into makeup me, then got back ringing the doorbell. Obviously, he had to hurry from the pool to open the door, and when he saw me, he turned so pale. I walked in without his welcome, calmly walked through the luxurious room, and picked up every trace of adultery I'd previously scattered on the floor, the sundress, the bikini, and even lingerie. Then I threw them at him. He was unable to say a word and got panicked when I kept walking straight to the toilet, where there was the sound of a shower pouring water, calmly saying, "The person I need to hit is inside, isn't she?" He panicked and ran in between me and the door. "It's not worth your action, honey. She's nothing. You know you're my only one." I asked him, "Is she beautiful?" "Nah, she's boring and old-fashioned. Not like you." I pushed him away and opened the door to enter. He panicked, jumped right behind me, and froze when his mistress was nowhere to be found in the hot shower steam. He probably thought she somehow escaped herself and, at least, saved his life. I still walked in, undressed, and put a bathrobe on myself right in front of him, then walked over to the mirror and started removing my makeup. He was still so bold and shameless. "I completely had you fooled. There is no girl. This is my plan to bring you here. Let's enjoy the night, babe." He really had a talent for lying. I just silently removed all the makeup on my face. "I've never seen you remove your makeup. Tonight will be really great," he said as he walked over to hug me from behind. I finished by tying my hair up and wiping the steam on the mirror with my hand and said, "So, who do you want to sleep with tonight?" He looked up into the mirror to see another me and screamed in horror, running away as if he'd seen a ghost. That night, I gloatingly stayed in that luxury hotel room and enjoyed the first day of my single life. Makeup is my passion and hobby, and I won't change it for anyone, especially for that kind of guy. But I now realize that I deserve to find a guy who loves me unconditionally, whether I'm the glamorous, makeup-covered version of me or just plain, coy, makeup-free me.